For 70 years of my life, I never once raised my voice in anger. The day my mother passed away, standing alone in the empty corridor of the funeral home, I looked at myself in the mirror for the first time, really looked, and I realized something. I couldn't find me in my own face, being good. I wore that word like a badge of honor from the age of 12 until well past 60. But that day, I understood. I had been a prisoner in a cage called goodness my entire life. My mother's last words echo in my ears. "Don't be too good," she said. It would take me 50 more years to understand what she meant. This is the story of a woman who lived as the good daughter and lost herself, and at 70, finally reclaimed her own name. Winter of 1963, I was born the eldest of 3 children. My earliest memory is from when I was about 5 years old. The night my father came home drunk, my mother squeezed my hand and whispered that I needed to be quiet, that I was her good girl, wasn't I? I nodded. From that day on, being good became my survival strategy. When I turned 10, my mother fell seriously ill. My younger siblings were still small, and my father worked construction sites from dawn to dusk. After school, I would rush straight home to cook for my siblings and give my mother her medicine. Through the window, I could hear my friends playing in the schoolyard, but I trained myself not to listen. I learned good daughters endure. I believed that good daughters never complain. The spring I turned 12, we didn't have money for my brother Jong-min's middle school entrance fees. Father could only sigh, and Mother cried. That night, I made a decision. Quietly, I went to my room and pulled out the bank book I'd hidden deep in my desk drawer. 3 years of saved allowance, a little over 100,000 won. Mother held the bank book and cried for a long time. Then she stroked my head and told me she was sorry, that I was too good. I smiled and said it was fine. But that night, under my blanket, I cried silently. I didn't even know what I was grieving for. 16 years old, second year of high school. Winter, my homeroom teacher called me in. She said my grades were good enough for university, that I could get a scholarship. For the first time, my heart raced. I wanted to study art. I'd always loved drawing since I was little. I went home and carefully broached the subject. My father's answer was brief. Jeong-min needed to go to college. How could I go when we had no money? My brother was now a high school freshman. I couldn't say another word. That night, I pushed my sketchbook deep into my drawer and decided never to take it out again. I thought giving up dreams was a good daughter's duty. After graduation, I got a job at a garment factory in Guro Industrial Complex. Every day I woke at 6 in the morning and sat at a sewing machine until 10 at night. Before the needle marks on my fingers could heal, new wounds appeared. My entire paycheck went home, and my brother successfully entered university. I was genuinely happy when I heard about my brother's acceptance, but that night, in the factory dormitory bathroom, I cried looking at myself in the mirror. At 19, my face already looked 30. At 24, I met Jeong-suk, the son of the corner store owner near the factory. He was quiet and diligent, a man who neither laughed nor got angry loudly. My mother said he was a good man and encouraged the marriage. I couldn't find a reason to refuse. On my wedding day, I wore a pure white dress and looked in the mirror. Something was strange. The person in the mirror was smiling, but that smile didn't feel like mine. It was as if I was borrowing someone else's face. My husband's family consisted of my mother-in-law and 2 sisters-in-law. From the first day, my mother-in-law told me that a daughter-in-law is the pillar of the household, that I would have to suffer for the family to be comfortable. I nodded. I woke at 5 every morning to prepare my mother-in-law's breakfast and pack lunches for my sisters-in-law. Laundry, cleaning, dishes. I quit my factory job. My mother-in-law didn't like her daughter-in-law working outside. The following year, my daughter Soo-jin was born. My mother-in-law sighed that it wasn't a son, but I felt joy, as if I finally had something that was completely mine. The joy was brief. My mother-in-law said she would raise the child herself, and I wouldn't be able to do it properly. I stand by and watch, hand my child over to someone else, believing that was a good daughter-in-law's duty. Every night I stood outside Soo-jin's room, listening to my child's laughter from inside. Her laughter as my mother-in-law put her to bed. I couldn't open the door, because good daughters-in-law endure. 35 years old. My brother Jong-min's business failed. He 10 million won in debt. He called me crying, begging for help, said he felt like dying. I told Jeong-suk I had some money saved secretly, that I wanted to help my brother. Jeong-suk looked at me silently for a long moment, then sighed and told me to do as I pleased. I sent my brother 8 million won. That money was everything I'd saved over 10 years. 1,000 won, 2,000 won at a time. Money I'd saved for a vague dream of maybe opening a small art class someday. Watching the bank balance drop to 130,000 won, I just sat there, numb. My brother said thank you, promised he'd pay it back, but that money never returned. After 2 years, my brother forgot about it, and I pretended to forget. At 40, a strange woman's text appeared on Jeong-suk's phone, asking what time he was coming today. I saw that message but pretended I hadn't. I wanted to confront him. I wanted to scream. But my mouth wouldn't open. I'd learned that good wives endure. I'd been told that protecting the family was a woman's virtue. My mother's voice, my mother-in-law's voice, the world's voice, they all sealed my lips. That night, My husband came home late, reeking of alcohol and unfamiliar perfume. Without a word, I handed him a glass of water and tucked him in because I was a good wife. I went to the bathroom and sat on the toilet, crying for a long time, silently holding my breath. Even my tears had learned to be quiet. At 45, my daughter Sujin got married. I'd been preparing for months, arranging the wedding gifts, organizing the guest list, searching for venues. But on the wedding day, everything proceeded according to my mother-in-law's wishes. At the reception, my mother-in-law told the guests that she had raised her granddaughter, that her daughter-in-law was clumsy with household matters. I stood beside her smiling. I'd spent 20 years caring for my in-laws day and night, but in that moment, I was invisible. Even my daughter Sujin only smiled next to her grandmother. When I approached, she gave me an awkward smile and then went back to her grandmother. My daughter felt like a stranger, or rather, I was the stranger to my own daughter. I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. At 45, my face looked 55. The wrinkles around my eyes, my hunched shoulders, my lifeless gaze. I couldn't see myself. What was in the mirror was just a role. Oh, someone's daughter, someone's wife, someone's daughter-in-law. At 48, my youngest sister Jeong-suk got divorced. When she came to our parents' home, she asked tearfully if she could stay for a little while. I said, of course, but Jeong-suk didn't leave after a month, or even after 3 months. She didn't work, just lay in bed all day. I took care of her meals too. Every morning, I knocked on her door, prepared her food, did her laundry. My mother-in-law complained, but I endured, because she was family. One night, Jeong-suk came to my room and told me I was really kind, that she couldn't have endured it. I smiled and said it was natural because we're family. But that night, I couldn't sleep. The word kind stuck in my ears. It didn't sound like a compliment. It sounded like mockery. Being kind meant being easy to use. Being kind meant you were expected to sacrifice. At 55, my mother collapsed. A stroke. The surgery was successful, but half her body was paralyzed. Naturally, I would take care of her. My siblings each had their circumstances and took a step back. Jung-min said he was struggling with his kids, and Jung-un said she still worked and asked if I could do it. I brought my mother to our house, 3 meals a day, changing her diapers, washing her body. At night, I woke every 2 hours to change her position, to prevent bed sores on her back. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. I began to break down. I lost 20 pounds. My hands trembled. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw a stranger. Sunken eyes, hollow cheeks, cracked lips. One morning, while bringing breakfast to my mother, I dropped the soup bowl. The bowl shattered on the floor, soup splattering everywhere. I collapsed right there. My mother looked at me with tears in her eyes. She couldn't speak, but her eyes were saying everything. "I'm sorry, thank you," and "Jeong-suk, don't do this." I broke down in front of my mother. For the first time, I cried out loud in front of her, saying I was too tired, but I couldn't say anything because everyone treated it like it was expected of me. My mother tried to lift her paralyzed hand to stroke my head. Her hand trembled in midair. I held that hand and cried for a long time. At 58, my mother-in-law passed away. Just before she died, she held my hand, said she was sorry, that she had stolen my life, and told me not to be good. I couldn't understand. Why was everyone telling me not to be good? What was wrong with goodness? I'd lived my whole life being good, so why did everyone say it was wrong? 60 years old, my mother left this world. At the funeral home, I prepared everything alone. Greeting mourners, arranging meals, handling funeral procedures. My siblings just sat there wailing. Jong-min was glued to his phone, saying work was busy, and Jong-un went outside to smoke, saying she was exhausted from crying. The third night, in the empty funeral home corridor, I sat alone on the floor. All the mourners had left. My siblings were asleep. Only I was awake. I called out to Mom, asked her how I was supposed to live now. There was no answer, only the cold fluorescent lights illuminating the hallway. After the 49th day memorial, talk of the inheritance began. My mother had left a small rental apartment. 5 million won in deposit. My siblings naturally suggested splitting it 3 ways. Jong-min said I should get my share too. I said quietly that I'd been her caregiver for 10 years. Alone, Jong-min's eyes widened. What was I talking about? Wasn't that what I was supposed to do? Supposed to? Why was it supposed to be me? Jong-un cut in. I had a husband and was doing fine financially, didn't I? She was raising a child alone, so couldn't I give a little? In that moment, something exploded. For the first time, I raised my voice. Did I look fine? I went to the factory after high school to earn money for their tuition. I wanted to go to college too. I wanted to paint, but I endured. For them, it was the same after marriage. Whenever they needed money, I sent it. My money, everything I'd secretly saved. I cared for Mom alone too. For 10 years. Did they ever come even once to watch her for one night? Jong-min's face reddened. What did they expect? I had done it on my own, hadn't I? On my own? If I didn't do it, who would? They couldn't do anything without me. Jong-un started crying. She was scared of me. She didn't know I could be like this. I told her this was who I really was, that the kind sister she knew was fake. The air in the room froze. My siblings looked at me silently, then left one by one. I remained alone in the empty room. In that moment, I realized something. The mask I'd worn my entire life had shattered into pieces, and the face that remained underneath was a stranger, even to me. In the end, Jong-min and Jong-un split the inheritance. I received nothing, or rather, I refused to take anything. I didn't want to be tied to them anymore. Didn't want to be bound by money. When I got home, Jeong-suk asked how much I'd received. I said I didn't get anything. He asked why. I said because I didn't want it. Jeong-suk sighed and said, "That's why I always got taken advantage of. What good was being kind?" I laughed, for the first time a bitter laugh, and I told him he was the same. He liked that I was kind, didn't he? Because I said nothing when he came home late or played around outside. Young-soo's face hardened. I continued. "I knew I'd known for 10 years, but I pretended not to, because I was a good wife." Silence fell. Long, heavy silence. I said I was done being good. Young-soo said I'd changed. I shook my head. I hadn't changed. I was returning to who I really was. That night, I packed. There wasn't much. A few clothes, a pair of shoes, an old sketchbook. Young-soo didn't try to stop me. Perhaps he was tired too. Tired of living with the fake me. I called my daughter Sujin, told her I'd left home. Sujin asked what I was talking about, why. I answered that I was going to live my own life. Sujin asked if I'd lost my mind. I answered, "Yes, I suppose I have. After 60 years. I hung up. Sujin called again, but I didn't answer. I picked up my bag and left the house. I didn't look back. I rented a small room in a Goshuan, a tiny dormitory, about 90 square feet. The bathroom was shared, and the window was half basement level, barely letting in sunlight. But strangely, it felt comfortable. It was entirely my space. For the first time, I experienced a morning where no one called my name. I didn't have to prepare my mother-in-law's breakfast, didn't have to ready my husband for work. No one nagged me. I found a job cleaning at a hospital. 5 in the morning until 9, cleaning the wards. The pay was about $1,000 a month. After paying $400 for rent, I had a little over $500 left. At first, it was fine. I was free. No one called for me. No one demanded anything. In the evenings, I'd buy a rice ball from the convenience store and eat it alone. In my room with no television, I ate watching people's feet pass by my window. But after a month, emptiness crept in. Who was I? Not the good daughter. Not the good wife. Not the good daughter-in-law. Who was I? After casting off all those roles, all that remained was an empty shell. One day while cleaning, I met a patient, an elderly woman in her 70s, lying alone in her hospital room. While I cleaned, the woman spoke to me. She said my face looked dark. I said I was fine. She asked how could I be fine with that face and how old I was. I said 60. The woman asked what I was doing cleaning hospitals at 60, whether I had a story. I didn't answer. She looked at me for a long moment and then spoke. She said she'd been the same. Spent her whole life doing things for others. Found herself alone past 70. Her husband gone, her children not visiting. That's when she realized she had no life of her own. The woman smiled and continued. But knowing now was better than never. That when you think it's too late is actually the earliest time. I stopped my work and looked at the woman. Her eyes were warm. A few days later, the woman was discharged. As she left, she squeezed my hand and told me to live my own life from now on. Those words kept circling in my mind. One day, while taking out the trash, I found a plastic bag on the ground. Someone's discarded belongings, it seemed. Inside the bag were old letters. When I unfolded one, I froze. It was my mother's handwriting. A letter beginning with Jeong-suk. My hands trembled. She wrote that she didn't know if I'd see this letter, but she couldn't bear not to write it. Did I know what she was most sorry for? That she'd lived leaning on my kindness. While praising me for being good, she'd actually stolen my life for her own comfort. I could have gone to college, could have painted, could have lived my dreams. But Mom, the world, we all just told me to be good. It was too late, but she wanted me to live my own life now. Being kind wasn't a sin, but kindness that made me lose myself was. She wanted to see me smile. My real smile, not the one behind a mask. She loved me, and she was sorry. As I read the letter, tears wouldn't stop. I sat on the ground and cried for a long time. Mother had known how hard it was for me, how much I'd lost myself. I called out to Mom, asked if it was okay even now. There was no answer, but the wind blew, a warm spring breeze, like a reply from my mother. The next day, I opened my old sketchbook, the one from 40 years ago from high school. On yellowed paper were pencil-drawn landscapes. My hands trembled. It had been 40 years since I'd held a brush. But strangely, my hands remembered. I mixed the paint, dipped the brush in water, and slowly applied color to the paper. My first painting was of myself. Looking in the mirror, I drew my face, a wrinkled face, white hair, lonely eyes. But the mean painting was alive. For the first time, while I painted, tears came. Not from sorrow. They were tears of joy. I couldn't believe I was doing what I wanted to do. A month later, I found a small community center. There was a notice recruiting students for a senior art class. My hands trembled, but I opened the door and went in. I asked if I could still register. The instructor smiled and nodded, saying, I was always welcome. From that day on, twice a week, I went to the community center. At first, I was clumsy. The other students had been painting for years. I was the only beginner. It was okay. Even if I was clumsy, even if I was slow, I was doing what I want to do. For the first time, I was spending time for myself. 3 months later, the community center held a small exhibition displaying the students' works. I submitted 2 pieces. On exhibition day, I stood in front of my painting. The title was In My Own Name. In the painting was a woman, hunched back, rough hands, face full of wrinkles. But that woman was smiling, a real smile. Then I heard a voice behind me calling Mom. It was Soo-jin. My daughter was looking at my painting and crying. Soo-jin said she was sorry, that she'd done the same to me, taken me for granted. I hugged my daughter, told her it was okay. It was okay now. Soo-jin asked if I was happy. I nodded. Yes. For the first time. That evening, back in my Goshuan room, I opened the window. From the half-basement window, all I could see were people's feet. But I could see the sky. A small piece of sky, but my sky. On my desk lay a new sketchbook. I opened the first page and picked up a pen and wrote Jeong-suk's art diary, age 62, starting today. Being kind is not a sin, but kindness that made me lose myself was a sin. Now I know how to be kind while protecting myself, how to give without emptying myself. I lived 70 years as someone else, but knowing this now, it's not too late. Now I live in my own name. What name are you living under? Are you living only as someone's good daughter, good wife, good parent? Remember your name. Remember your dreams. When you think it's too late is actually the earliest time. From today, live in your own name, 사세요.